the January HRC Human Rights Commission meeting. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy to have so many of you joining us today in the public, so thanks for being here. So first we're going to start off with approving today's agenda and then the minutes from October and November. So a member of the Human Rights Commission wants to do that part of the agenda.
I move we accept the agenda as so proposed. Sonia Marie, welcome.
Jamila Dozier, I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Anybody abstaining?
Thanks. Okay, and did everyone have a chance to take a look at the minutes? Okay. Motion?
For the October minutes,
October, just wondering.
I have just one thing, slightly different meaning on the second page.
For October?
Yeah, just it's just a typo, but and reminder to providing a respectful and safe space, not proving a respectful and safe space.
So providing, not proving?
Yep, that's October.
October minutes. Page 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the one amendment.
For November, or we just do October?
Let's do October first and then November.
All those in motion?
Oh, we didn't do the motion yet?
Move to accept, I just made the change. So I move to make the change.
Yeah.
To Chris Wallace Caldwell and accept the minutes with that change.
I, Daniel Martinez, second the motion for the October agenda and minutes with only edit that Commissioner Chris Wallace talked about. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining?
I abstain.
Could you guys speak up a little bit so we can hear in the back?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And also say your names in here.
Josué Ramírez, abstain.
Okay, the motion passes.
Oh, and Corey Boo abstained as well, so he's not present.
That was for October, how about November?
I wasn't here for November, so I'm gonna abstain from that one.
Motion to pass to accept the minutes from November 6, 2019 meeting. Michelle Wilson. Any changes, edits? All those in favor?
I need a second, please.
And Corey Boo second the motion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Daniel Martinez, I was not present.
Michelle Wilson, I was absent.
Sonia Marie Lycum, excused.
Okay, good, thank you. All right. So next on the agenda is a director's report and advisor update. Do you want me- Okay, so I will try to be brief, but basically what I have for you today is just something that came out of my meeting with Claire Adamsick, Senior Policy Advisor for Commissioner Fritz. And that is some information that hopefully will help you make your decision today on your vote for the draft resolution. So I wanted to give you the difference between putting forth a resolution and making a statement. and then let you know a little bit about that process, the uniqueness of each one of those processes. So when you make a statement as the Human Rights Commission, let's say in support of something, you can be, I'm just gonna give an example. Let's say you make a statement that you are in support of a resolution that another municipality put forth, or in support of advocacy for certain human rights issues. That statement is completely your voice and your stance. It's only the Human Rights Commission and whoever you are, advocating for or uplifting. The difference with the resolution is that the resolution needs council support and an office support. So it would need to go to a council office for consideration. So since I've been talking to Claire, and Commissioner Fritz is our commissioner who oversees the Office of Equity and Human Rights, she was saying she could check with the commissioner if that was the route that you wanted to go. So the difference that it makes in the language is that the resolution is council's action. So council is taking that action. The HRC is mentioned, and the process can be mentioned. The community advocacy groups that are involved with this entire movement can also be mentioned. But the action itself, when it's a resolution, is coming from council, and so needs a council office to support it. And it's actually council who is making that, taking that stance. Claire was able to give me an example of a recent resolution that was a more international type resolution that was put forth regarding Iran. Real current events have happened, but now that have changed, not changed that resolution, but anyway, you know what is happening internationally. But this resolution will be something I'll be able to get out to you, because she said it's a really great example of how to, of the language and the formatting that you would use in a resolution for this type of kind of international advocacy for asking council to take action and speak out on something that's internationally based.
Tatiana?
Yes.
Was that resolution adopted or accepted by council?
Yes. Yep, it's already public record. I can just get you out of copies. I just got that earlier today when I was meeting with Claire.
And it's our city council.
Yes, correct. Yeah, and through Commissioner Fritz's office. Questions that were posed to me were, what does the Human Rights Commission want to achieve with the resolution? And later on, when we hear public comment, I'll have some questions for folks who have advocated on this issue already, but just wanting to know what other council offices have already been contacted. If you were to go the route of making a statement, Claire said that, as with previous statements, they would be happy to support it by getting it out on social media and spreading the statement out, and then we can look in our office how we get the statement out as well. That could be something we could talk about with Jeff, for example. So statement would kind of take that form versus going before council.
Can we do both?
You could. Yeah. Then there's further process after the resolution. So the resolution would, some of the language would need to be changed so that it fit the formatting of it, which we need it to do. So process for the resolution would be looking for a time certain. If we ask for a time certain, that would allow the public, the human rights advocacy groups to be able to know an exact time to come if you want to give public comment during the resolution. And then helps you all if you're able to schedule, a firm time, as opposed to just having it on the regular agenda where we might get the item moved around. And then scheduling and timing will then require some coordination with Commissioner Fritz's office, their schedule, their capacity, council calendar, et cetera, et cetera. So I can't give you an exact time frame on that. And then the last thing I want to say is that an idea for when you do take your vote is an idea for the language would be, for example, you could say, we vote to put forth a resolution or a statement. So I think that that's the decision that you should make tonight. And then you can leave your vote broad so that you continue to give Dr. Crane, essentially authority to be able to continue to work on the draft. Because either way, the language will need to change, so that way your vote isn't that you're solidifying exactly what's already written in the draft, but that you're giving a vote to allow Dr. Crane to continue to work with Drew and others that have helped pen the resolution, whether it takes resolution form or statement form. That's all I got for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Good to see everybody. I think just a couple of things in terms of my update, because we're sort of getting back right into things. The first is our strategic plan work is still underway. We took a little pause because of holiday time and people's schedules, but that is still underway. And so at some point in time, when we have a draft of something, we will be looking to sort of share that out and let you know the direction that we're going. I think some of you, a lot of you probably got Daniel email back. I had sent a letter that just acknowledged the work from the previous stakeholder report and kind of the direction that we were heading, so acknowledging that work. So that's still happening, and we anticipate for sure something ready no later than the first part of February, that we'd be able to have some input and be able to show you. The second piece is we're starting our budget process, as you probably know. And I'll just put a plug in because we're like our BAC is, I call it the struggle BAC right now. Just weird. So if you're interested, it may be part of the Bureau Advisory Committee. If you don't have enough to do, let me know. But we did lose a few members, and so as budget is starting, this is an opportunity, I think, not only to find out about budget, kind of the main priorities, but just the programs that take place within our office and what that looks like and how we're prioritizing budget items for the coming year. So if you are interested, you can email me and we can talk about that.
Is everybody, including OEHR, in the house, go through the exercise of a 10% or a 5%
No,
cut?
not this time.
Good.
Not this time. It's not a cut budget, although there was direction given that if bureaus were going to ask in our offices, the offices bureaus were going to ask for something, that you had to think about, like what you would give us, if that makes sense. But we're a small office and we're small bureaus, and so I know that Commissioner has talked with the mayor about not really holding us necessarily, because we don't have anything to give them, right? So it would be people for us, because the majority of our budget is personnel, and that we're not doing. So, just so you know.
And it's an advisory council, advisory
It is,
committee.
it is.
I'm on board, so we lost people.
Are you doing recruitment process for
We're-
other
we-
folks outside?
We are trying to do that. Jeff and I are, Jeff more than me, because that's part of his job responsibilities are, help me out with that. But yeah, so I'm putting it in the plug, sorry,
Can you speak a little bit to, I know last year, I think, we were asked to come up with a sample budget for the HRC and had some difficulty doing so because we had trouble pulling out specific expenses related to us. Is that
Okay.
something we'll be asked to do again, or?
Well, we've tried for several years. to
Yeah,
get
we've tried
numbers
to
on
sort
it.
of
Yeah.
understand.
We've got, I know that we have a fiscal person that's awesome. And so what she's doing for all of our programs is making sure, like monthly, there's always a lag in it,
Right.
but that they're, kind of line items. And then, of course, our program managers are also tracking that. So if that's something that you're interested in, I know that Tatiana can work with Nikki and make sure so we can kind of have a picture of what that looks like.
Yeah, it's, I'm really happy to report, just echoing what
Yeah.
Markeisha is saying, that the process is finally in its improvement phase.
Mhm.
So yes, we do have a wonderful,
Senior fiscal
senior fiscal analyst. And she's fantastic to work with. And so I've told her what our struggles have been in the past, and that it would be great for it to be more easily readable, and there was like all these like internal pieces that were always attached to it, and I said, I really just need a clean sheet that I can give the commissioners. They don't need to see all the like behind the scenes OEHR part
Right.
that goes with the program, so she has done that for me, and that is something that I'll be able to get out to you. Yeah. So, yes, exciting. Thank you for your
Nikki's really-
question. Yes.
put her plug in.
Nikki's amazing, yeah.
So, oh, and we're moving, our office is moving, that's a big thing.
That's
Forgot all about should have been number one. So we are moving to the Portland building. They found space for us there, we'll be on the 12th floor, and that move will happen on March the 13th, so the week of like the 9th through the 13th, there'll be lots of busyness happening, and so, at some point in time, our meetings will, our meetings will shift to space in the Portland building. So we'll talk about that.
I wonder if our timing would be good to do a community meeting for the March meeting, because that will be during the packing time, and we, I think that's on the agenda.
Yes, yes,
So
it's gonna be a little bit interesting around here,
Yeah.
end of February, March. So something, yeah, we can certainly, y'all can talk about it.
And that has budget implications too, we're thinking about trying to do more meetings outside of this space. Good.
So, but we're excited, I think, Grace, y'all excited? I'll make you laugh, I told them I want to see surfaces. I said I want to see surfaces by mid-February. The faux wood, I need to see.
So will our meetings also be moving over to
They would be
that?
moving
Okay.
over to that building. And there is, I've had a tour, there are plenty of meeting spaces there, a variety of size spaces, so, if you have not been in, it's really nice. I don't know what it looked like before, but I'm hearing that this is wonderful. So, Jeff. Okay.
I have a question about, I don't know what you can provide, but now that Commissioner Fish has passed, and I thought that Fritz was retiring.
She is.
Right, so I'm just curious what we know about that transition and replacement of commissioners.
So I know that the bureaus that were, that Commissioner Fish have been moved under the mayor. And there are some other smaller pieces that, you know, will continue to kind of operate the system and trying to keep them whole as much as possible. And as far as our office is concerned, no real information at this point. I have some ideas maybe about what would make the most sense just based on my interactions with different commissioners and what that would look like for us, but at this point, we don't know. So, and then we also have the, you know, the mayor election, like there's a lot, right, that's happening, and so we'll be around, just not sure, you know, what, I will advocate as we get a little bit closer. Commissioner Fritz and I will mobilize together and kind of think about where we might have some advocacy for where we land, so.
There's 3 seats up. Mayor, you Daly's up again. Fritz and Fish.
No, not you, Daly.
Daly.
So it's just Fritz,
Oh, not.
because, yeah, she's retiring, mayor, and then Fish. So, that's where we are. I think that's it.
I just wanted to let you all know that the food came a little bit later, so if you want to make your plates, please make sure that you can make your plates. And we can do that while we get public comment started, or do you want to take a pause and make a plate and then start public comment?
I think pause and plate.
Let's do that.
Okay.
So we're gonna get started with public comment.
We'll call your name and then you can come to the front.
So we
we have 8 people who have checked for public comment with 1 question mark, so maybe 8 question mark 9. And because we do like to extend past the 15 minutes that we have allotted, but we do have a reality of trying to make sure we get everyone a chance to speak. So we're going to ask for you to take about 3 minutes for that, and we'll let you know when that time passes. So the first person for public comment, crossed their name off, so sorry. The second person, Lynn Neely, had a question mark, so Lynn.
I think Lynn has left. She left.
Okay, and then Jennifer Anderson.
Do you want to go up to the front?
Oh, or you can,
Or-
right here.
This is actually, yeah.
Okay, I'll get the back of your head this way.
Okay. Is this good?
If you prefer, I mean, you're welcome
Whatever's
to have a
comfortable for you.
stage, whatever you want.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer, and I'm the chairperson of Untitled in Portland, a national democratic youth organization of the Philippines. As a youth organization, we are fighting for a future where the Philippines may be free. Although the Philippines may feel oceans away, these human rights issues can be linked to issues here in Portland. Under President Rodrigo Duterte, Filipino youth have been targeted by both the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the Philippine National Police. During an AFP raid, 17-year-old Kian de los Santos was brutally attacked, dragged, and killed under the name of Duterte's war on drugs. Kian's story is not uncommon. He is just one out of the 54 youth under the age of 18 killed in either police operations or vigilant-style killings in 2017. These numbers have only increased, where over 30,000 cases of extrajudicial killings have occurred under Duterte. Even more, the Lumad people, or the indigenous people of Mindanao, have faced multiple aerial bombings and oppression. Just last year, over 50 Lumad schools were forcefully shut down. These community-built schools teach literacy, sustainable farming, and legal rights to their ancestral domain. Yet in response, the government has sent military and paramilitary forces to attack civilians and take over school facilities for military operations. This increase in militarization of schools is also happening across the country with revival of the mandatory ROTC in public high schools. In order to continue their education, students are harassed with hazing and face death threats by the AFP. This was the basis for ending mandatory ROTC in 2001 after the murder of Mark Wilson Chua when he exposed the corruption of reserve officers. Yet under this bill, high school students who refuse to participate in ROTC would not be able to graduate. Although our conditions are different, we can link these issues here in the US and in cities like Portland. We can connect the increase of police violence that target young Black and brown people. We can connect the arming of campus police and the overall increase of militarization on school campuses. Yet these are just a few examples of the current human rights violations in the Philippines. Young activists, artists, students, workers, farmers, and peasants have been arrested and attacked for speaking up against these issues. Young people should have the right to organize and be activists. Young people should not have to fear for their lives under gunpoint when going to school. Young people should live in a country that does not separate families or force people out of their homeland. For the Philippines, we see that the current government does not serve the interests of its people. And with almost 200 million of our tax dollars being sent just last year, these conditions will only continue to worsen. Instead, these funds should be redirected to social services here in the US, in cities like Portland. We deserve accessible education, healthcare services, and affordable housing. As a daughter of a migrant mother from the Philippines, and as a member of the Portland community, I urge you all to support this resolution to suspend U.S. military aid to the Philippines. Today, I urge you to support a future where Filipino youth can live to see genuine freedom and peace. Thank you. Do I stay?
Thank you. Thank you. The next person we have is Olivia Kathy Smith.
Hi, I'm Olivia Kathy Smith. I'm with the Democratic Socialists of America of Portland. and we have a short statement. The Trump administration callously continues to support the strong-arm rule of Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte, whose brutal war on drugs and other anti-people campaigns have taken the lives of over 29,000 urban poor, peasants, workers, indigenous and environmental activists, as well as human rights defenders, religious leaders, and peace advocates. Nonetheless, the U.S. government continues to allocate money to the Philippines through their appropriations for the Department of State and foreign operations and related programs. Current annual appropriations for the Philippine military amount to $184.5 million. The money the United States spends supporting brutal foreign regimes like this one could be much better spent taking care of our most vulnerable residents here in Portland and all over the country. And as an official city body charged with working to eliminate discrimination and bigotry, to strengthen intergroup relationships, and to foster greater understanding, inclusion, and justice for Portland, I urge you to vote in favor of this resolution, which a broad and diverse community of Portlanders have asked you to take a stand on, some of whom have been directly affected by this issue. San Francisco has passed a similar resolution, and Portland should be taking a lead in standing up for human rights. What we have found when we have brought certain issues to this body before is that certain resolutions were not adopted because it was said not to be under this commission's purview. I would hope that the Human Rights Commission of all city bodies is one to recognize the way that all of our issues are connected, the way this issue directly affects Portlanders, and of course that none of us are free until all of us are free.
Thank you. Veronica Porter?
Good afternoon. My name is Veronica Porter. I am one of the founding members of the Portland chapter of the General Assembly binding women in reforms, integrity, leadership, and action, also commonly known as Gabriella Portland. I come to this committee hearing in support of the resolution to suspend U.S. military aid to the Philippines. I come to you all as someone who has recently attended a political exposure trip to the Philippines, where I was able to integrate with several urban poor communities and also attend the Gabriella Philippines Congress, where we discuss the issues of the people and pass our own resolutions for our political work to lift the voices of the masses and right the many injustices served by the Philippine government currently under the Duterte regime. I have the unique perspective as a daughter of a retired colonel of the U.S. Army and the daughter of a strong Filipina who was trafficked and then built her life in service to veterans of the U.S. military and their families. And I'm asking today that you pass this resolution to suspend indefinitely U.S. military aid to the Philippines. I'd like to begin my public report with some basic science and remind us of Newton's third law of physics, and that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. President Duterte took office in the Philippines on June 30th, 2016, and in that time there have been over 30,000 extrajudicial killings with Duterte's so-called drug war, Executive Order 70 and Memorandum 32, which create a de facto martial law in the Philippines. While the Gabriella USA contingent visited the Philippines just several weeks ago, we were given the opportunity to integrate and interview people in several communities. I was able to visit 2 cities in the Visayas, Iloilo and Rojas. While we were there, we were able to visit over 10 different barangays, or neighborhoods. We were able to talk to various members of the urban poor communities there. This included fisherfolk, women, students, educators, organizers, political prisoners, lawyers, and human rights defenders who had been targeted and have had attempts made on their life. With the barangays we visited, we paid courtesy calls to the barangay captains of these respective places to allow them to know of our presence and that we would be conducting interviews. This is customary, especially during these trying times. Since the nation of the Philippines is under a de facto martial law, there is a 10 p.m. curfew in Rojas. One of the youth and students we had the opportunity to interview was named Peter Jimenez. Peter talked about the drug war, and he told us, "Our only thought is to keep fighting. We are the youth. We shouldn't have to fight. Youth are the blood of the nation, and here we're oppressed. The youth are the victims of the drug war. The police plant drugs on the youth. So many youth are dying because of this. Duterte says he wants to get rid of drug addicts, but many killed are not. All we can do is unite on the problems of the youth. If you're not a family friend of the politicians, there is no justice." There is no justice. We'll get old and there will still be no justice. I raise Peter's story because the U.S. has aided Duterte with $550 million in military aid since 2016. This aid is then divested to the Philippine National Police and the Armed Forces of the Philippines. I raise his story because youth should not have to grow up worrying about whether or not they'll be staring down the barrel of a gun because a president decides that he wants to perform extrajudicial killings. His war against the people is not an act to better serve the people of the Philippines. His son is directly involved with the drug cartels in the Philippines. The editor and founder of Rappler, Maria Ressa, Times Person of the Year in 2018, has been under attack this past year by the Duterte administration, and she's not the only one. We also had an opportunity to interview attorney Criselda Azarcon Heredia with the National Union of Lawyers, who has survived attacks on her and her daughter's lives. She had been working on a case where members of the armed forces of the Philippines were identified as assailants in a murder, and now she has to keep a bodyguard with her at all times because her life continues to be threatened. The people of the Philippines need a government that protects and serves them, not one that targets and attacks them. Many of the people that we visited are survivors of Typhoon Yolanda, which hit the nation 6 years ago, and they are still recovering. The government has done nothing to improve their livelihood, and they just got hit by Typhoon Ursula on December 24th, just last month. The people of the Philippines need food, clean water, and sustainable livelihoods. They don't need a so-called drug war or a de facto martial law. And so I desperately urge you to end U.S. military aid to the Philippines. Our U.S. tax dollars are going to a dictator who is fueling his own personal agenda and is actively aiding the Philippine National Police and the Armed Forces of the Philippines in directly attacking innocent people in the Philippines. Not only are the people of the Philippines under attack with the support of our U.S. tax dollars, but also the Filipino women here in the U.S. are also impacted. Filipino migrant women here in Portland are not able to go back home to the Philippines due to a great lack of Filipino-specific services, including access to embassies. Gabriela answers the call of the Filipino migrant women that fall through these gaps in services, including domestic violence and legal protections for their children. And so I ask, where is our tax dollar support for people like them? So again, I urge you to vote to suspend U.S. military aid to the Philippines, and may our action that we take here today be one where we suspend U.S. military aid in the Philippines so that there can be an equal and opposite reaction where the Philippines may seek justice and peace for its people.
Eric Vega?
Thank you, commissioners, for meeting with us, and I wanted to thank the audience for being here. It's a big audience. I'm a resident of Portland, and I stand in support of the resolution or the statement as you see fit. I think whatever makes it the strongest is what I would support. I think it's important to see that this is not just words. You know, this is meeting here in this little room, it's raining outside, and it's just some little bunch of words. I think at the core, at the very heart of this thing are three things. One, it's a way to help take down Duterte. Two, it's about educating the public and building new leadership to challenge empire. Three, it's about you participating in the important task of building up a human rights movement in this country and all around the world. The earlier statement, went directly to some of the facts regarding Duterte. Since just over the last few years, some 30,000 people dead, $500 million in military aid from the United States. So that has to end. And that's kind of the simple part. I think that's important to get to that. But I think it is also important, the education component. And that is, well, last night, we were on the verge of another big war. And we have to like begin to make an analysis. What is going on around the world? And it is not simply enough to say, you know, these are clowns in high places. This is systematic. This is historically based. And we need to make an analysis and participate in that. But it's the third part, I think, that is the most important. You have a stake in the unfolding events that are taking place around us. We do live in an empire. And the question is, what do you want to do about it? We and you as human rights advocates are kind of like the light in the darkness. You as human rights commissioners are leaders that can send a message, and that's why I just want to underline the importance of these words. That they are an organizing tool. That's the important part. That it builds from this group to double this group and triple this group. If you try to take on the Trump administration as an example by yourself, people will laugh and call you drunk. But if my sister stands up in support, and then her brother, and then 14 people down the block, then we can change the world in terms of human rights. That is the task before us today and in the ongoing days in front of us. We are not moving towards dystopia. That's not the future. The future is we are a movement and we can change the world. So you have a voice, you have a choice. I hope you will support this resolution. Thank you.
Russell Liu.
I'm going to sit if that's okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Russell Lum. I am the staff person of Oregon Fair Trade Campaign. Oregon Fair Trade Campaign is the statewide political advocacy organization waging the fight for people and planet in the space of trade policy, in the space of the trade agreements that our U.S. government enters us into. And we dream out and advance what we hope to bring to birth, which is just trade policy that comes out of our U.S. federal government. And Oregon Fair Trade is a coalition of about 30 organizations from the union movement, from climate justice, from environmental groups, from global solidarity groups, from faith and others. This is a coalition that knows the needed justice improvements in the Philippines very, very well when it comes to the U.S.'s approach to the Philippines as commercial policy, but also where it comes to the U.S.'s approach to the Philippines when it comes to diplomatic and military policy. These are twin issues. I'll connect them with you with my couple of minutes. And again, in support or in the larger point, to urge you to endorse the resolution to suspend U.S. military aid to the Philippines. One of the sins of the Duterte government as it applies an overbroad war on drugs on its own people, as it applies martial law in a large swath of its territory. One of the sins of the Duterte administration is to use military and paramilitary force to drive poor folks off their land, which frees it up for the taking of extractive industry. And this is, again, this is the same coin of a military act and an act of a commercial taking. The U.S. has a policy that the Philippines is it first of all is a former colony, and now it's a neo-colonial sibling government to a policy, as my colleague Rodriguez said, of empire. And the same commercial interests that brought us what we have in the Philippines is is a framework for trade and investment. It's what's called a TIFA trade agreement with the Philippines. The same interests that bring us the parameters of the TIFA trade agreement with the Philippines are the interests that want to use surveillance and military technology on the Philippine people, that want to see surveillance drones and military drones killing people off their land, so that loggers can get vegetable oils out of Philippine soil. So again, our expertise is trade policy. We can point you to the facts that one of the largest exports from the Philippines to the United States is vegetable oils. That doesn't come out of nowhere. That comes from US and other Western commercial interests looking to extract those oils from lands in the hands of indigenous people who must be gotten rid of in order to get to them. I mean, we can go down the list of the so-called benefits of the way that the US and the Philippines operate together commercially. And again, I think it points to a neo-colonial relationship that has to be turned back in the manner in which we negotiate our free trade, or whether it be fair trade, and in the manner in which we throw dollars at a military agenda. The Trump administration is in talks to expand the current trading relationship with the Philippines to be a full-fledged bilateral free trade agreement. This would be a disaster. It would cost more lives, and it would result in more militarism. We think that both trade policy and US and military and diplomatic policy should have high standards. We should prioritize human rights. The enemy of human rights is systematic exploitation that we're seeing. So we think that your vote is on the line in this matter. We think that local governments putting their name out, whether they be this commission or the city council, we think that local governments putting their name out to encourage better behavior out of our federal government is the kind of work that, well, only you can do, first of all, and thank you for considering doing it. But it's also the work that builds the movements that me and my colleagues here operate in, which again try to turn the tide against systematic exploitation and extraction. Thanks.
Quick question, if you don't mind, and also actually to Jennifer and to Olivia as well, because for the trade agreement in particular, do you know the amount of money that's being exchanged between the two countries?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's 26 billion.
It's 26 billion, and then
Yeah, so U.S.-Philippines trade, direct trade between these countries was worth 29.6 billion in the last year of our research. This is a long-term interest area for my organization. We have a fact sheet on this, and some of my information came from that. And if you go to OregonFairTrade.org, you can find our fact sheet on the Philippines trade and which sectors populate that trading relationship most. And in our view, it's all bad stuff.
And do you know how much of that is the relationship between the city of Portland or the state of Oregon, as far as any trade deals that are actually coming into also the state of Oregon?
I don't have this honed down into how much of it's Oregon trade, but we definitely know, just a little bit apart from what I was talking about earlier, we definitely know that the way the Philippines is seen in global economics is that one of the Philippines' chief exports is labor. Filipino overseas workers are on ships that come to the port of Portland. They're in the city of Portland and every other in Oregon. So I'll just leave it there. Yeah.
Which of course would frame sex work and trafficking.
You bet.
Thanks. Thank you. Jack Herbert.
I'm speaking to you as a representative of the Portland Central America Solidarity Committee. We were formed 40 years ago this summer on the day that the Nicaraguan Revolution succeeded. I want to urge you very much to remember and reflect on what Eric Vega told you. He said very clearly, I think, a whole lot of it. Presentation at the Alliance High School, a special high school over at Benson, one of the students was talking about the people in Honduras, and the teacher Ursula from Peru said, when you call us them, we feel really, I don't know, or something. I think it's a very good reminder that we are one people on this planet, those of us who are committed to community for the good of all. And any other path is going to lead to extinction. I think we all know this. We need to hang together as one people. And it's our government. Duterte wouldn't be there without our government. Juan Orlando Hernandez in Honduras would not be. All those oppressive governments, they are held up with U.S. military aid. And the purpose of the aid is control, prevent democracy, prevent from making their own choices and making troubles for corporate profits, and extracting wealth from those countries. They decided in the 50s and 60s they got rid of the colonies, so we've gotten them back in the form of these free trade agreements, of all these economic mandates, and the military aid that forces people in the country to do what the United States and its corporate rulers say, demand. So when a few years ago we had 4 indigenous people come here from the Philippines to tell us about what they were going on, and it was remarkable. It's oh my God, the Philippines is part of Latin America. It is exactly the same. Maybe some of you are more familiar with Latin America, but the purpose of the way U.S. military aid is drug wars. You know about Colombia, right? They have been the 3rd largest recipient of U.S. aid after Israel and Egypt. So they have this tremendous military buildup in the name of fighting drugs. And you notice that the drugs haven't decreased. It's not about fighting drugs. It's about driving people off the land. They have 7 million internally displaced people, last I heard, in Colombia, out of a population of less than 50 million. I think maybe, and they have had in the past over half of the assassinations of labor leaders, union members in the world have happened in Colombia. The clearing people off land, all this stuff that either happens directly by the military, the police, or by paramilitaries that are organized, death squads that are organized by the military. Those are your tax dollars and mine that are paying to kill people in Colombia, in Honduras, in the Philippines, all over. And if you're familiar with the horror of the Philippines, just remember, it's just of Honduras. It's just like Philippines and Honduras, to me, are just the same, except the Philippines is 5 times larger. 9.5 million in Honduras and 48 or so million in the Philippines. And right now, you can see, you've seen it again at work in Bolivia. Are any of you following that? Our government supported a white supremacist organization in waging a coup. The police joined in, and then the military supported it. And now there were emails from our embassy to that white supremacist so-called Christian organization offering to help them with their communications. Before the coup, members of the embassy went around South America to other governments lining up support for that coup. They are assassinating people, the police are, every day. This is the fruit, this is U.S. military. You know, like leaders of the military there went to the School of the Americas at Fort Benning, Georgia.
Jack, you're a little over time now,
okay.
so
all right.
I do have one more person,
yeah.
So I want to leave opportunity
right.
for someone else.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. And then Joe, anybody?
Yeah, right here. Just I'm going to come down and sit in. Just want to say hello, and I choose to sit down here so I can see everybody at the table. I feel like sitting down there, you have your back to the crowd, and if anything's being filmed, you get the back of their head. It doesn't work very well for doing what the other gentleman spoke of a little bit more before me about educating and the messages that you guys have in here. What I want to do is introduce myself. I haven't been here in a couple of years. I want to bring my camera and shine the light on what the Human Rights Commission is doing and be supportive of the commissioners. I feel like there's not much of a voice being represented by you guys out in the community. I've had big problems in the past with filming and putting a lot of time into this to lift your voices up and then to really get sort of just speaking to just this room. And it doesn't go much further than this room. I want to help disseminate the information. I post on YouTube, Portland Indie Media, and I have my own website, Joe Anybody. Pretty much, if I'm in here filming, you can see these reports. You can see what's going on. You can share it around with other people and help educate, help pass the word around. I'm here to support you guys. And like I said, I did get a little discouraged because your voices need to be, you're a powerful group, this Human Rights Commission, and your voices are strong. But if it doesn't get much out of this space, it just sort of stays there and we talk to each other. So I want to support you guys. And if you see me and you got anything you want to help get out that you're doing, any work you're doing, feel free to talk to me. I want to help get your messages out. And my name's really Mike, but I go by Joe Anybody. Because I'm just a Joe Anybody citizen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for lending your voice to our meeting today. We need to flip the agenda items, so we're going to go next to, because we have our stakeholders present here for the item on discrimination based on hairstyle, and due to the time frame that we let them know.
I have one comment that I want to make because I don't know how many of the folks who presented testimony will be able to stick around. I personally, I can't speak for the whole commission, though I suspect they might echo what I'm about to say, am appreciative of the tremendous emotional tax that you all carry to come here to present science and facts and spreadsheets. I want to sort of center and remind folks at this table that we ask community members to demonstrate, make these connections so we can do our work, right? How does it relate to Portland, right? And every single one of you did, I'm an educator, so I would give you all A's if you did this research paper. You very clearly made that connection, but my point is not only to grade you, but to say that if, as the commission, we were to continue to ask you all to carry that burden to prove something to us that largely can't be proven in terms of exploitation. There's no paper trail. There is and there isn't. And I think that if we expect something a lot more solid, if that were something that we were asking for, more Portlandy, that would be a continuance of white supremacy culture. It doesn't exist. The evidence, the data are there. I want you to know that I recognize it. And I'm just sincerely appreciative of you coming. So thank you.
Where would you like it? Yeah, no. Yeah, maybe that. Yeah. Okay, so okay, so it's come, I think, a few times. And I want to say, Janelle, you got the letter from the student about discrimination in hairstyle, so it kind of started with that conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. And so one of the things that happened for me, Lexi is my stylist, And we happened to be in the shop a couple months ago when this came up. And I talked to them about the Human Rights Commission and that this student wrote this letter, and we're trying to think about maybe this being something that could possibly be brought forward as a resolution. We've got some options here based on what Tatiana shared earlier with you. And there's work that's happened in California now and in New York, which we looked at, I think, the last time. We sent out some stuff around the Crown Act, and so folks had an opportunity to look at that. And basically what I thought our lovely guests could do is just sort of share a little bit in more of an informal way just around what they're hearing from clients. I know Amber has worked at the state level with Janelle Bynum, who, by the way, I did talk to. She could not be here tonight. There is work that's happening at the state level. They have something that's in draft. She didn't get it to me to give it to you all this evening, but that is a bill that they're putting forth that's related to this. And so just so you're kind of aware of what's happening at the state level. So as soon as I get that, I'll make sure that Tatiana has it and we can talk about like what that might mean and how that might impact what we're doing here. But I did want Amber and Stark and Lexi Johnny to come and just share kind of what they do, what they're hearing, and particularly Amber has, like I said, done some work at the state level around some things, and so yeah, I'll let them tell you a little bit more about themselves, and then we'll just have a conversation. We may have questions for you. So yeah.
My name is Lexi Johnny. I'm hair designer. I work conscious clothes with Amber. So yeah, I've been licensed for many years now. I would say about 12. And I love what I do. I see many clients of all different cultures, about different textures of hair, and it's really wonderful working with everyone and meeting different people and stuff like that.
I'm Amber Starks, and I own Conscious Coils, which is a natural hair salon, the first all-natural hair salon under the new laws that we'll talk a little bit about. It's in downtown Portland here, right on 11th and Yamhill. And it kind of all started out of, recognizing a need in the community, especially for kids who are fostered and adopted, often are placed in homes where they're not in Black families. So in Oregon, we know, and I'm not sure around the country, that Black children and Native American children are overrepresented in the foster care system. And I think there was something, that I really, I know like in the Native community, there's a lot of work around supporting our children who, when they're not in the home of their culture, and I wanted to provide that same kind of support for Black children from all of the diaspora, not just African American children. And so I learned a couple years ago that in order for me to even simply be able to support families who foster and adopt, that I needed to go through a full cosmetology program. And of course, I thought that was, in a lot of ways, reinforcing white supremacy and reinforcing this notion that people can go through school and not have to learn about our hair, and also the importance of the culture, like connecting hair to our culture, because in a lot of ways I feel like it's one of the ways that people of the African diaspora have been able to hold on to a sense of self and a sense of autonomy and self-determination. And so it was really important to me to be able to give that to our kids and give that to our, even to share that with families and foster families or adoptive families who are taking our kids in. So the Conscious Coils kind of came out of that, and once I learned that I had to go through the full program, I just reached out to my legislators and said, would you be willing to work on a piece of legislation that empowers community members who already focus on natural hair in their homes and in their community, the ability to be able to do that with our children. And also I just saw it as a way of empowering mostly Black women to be able to start businesses. And I mean, just the economics of that, we're not only supporting our children, but in a lot of ways we're supporting Black women, being able to start businesses and work in salons. And but I mean, that's the heart of what we've been doing. And I will say that I was really fortunate. Luke Frederick, Alyssa Geyer, and Senator Jackie Felder, former Senator Jackie Felder, helped me in 2013 sort of change the law so that we do have a separate license for natural hairstylists. And I would say Lexi has been there since the beginning. She wasn't working in the salon at first, but really kind of spoke to the already licensed folks who kind of saw it as a threat. But my goal was to kind of bridge the communities, and Lexi really helped with that, to not see it as a threat, because there's a lot of people out there who didn't even know how to do natural hair, because it was such community-based thing. You know, a lot of us grew up learning how to braid and lock and twist, and this is community knowledge that is, I think it's vital to identity in a lot of ways, and then also, like I said, self-determination. So Lexi definitely stepped in and really spoke on behalf and in support of, you know, other stylists who are already licensed. And so, yeah, within the last year, we also worked on a second piece of legislation, because in the original legislation, we weren't allowed to wash hair because it was seen as something that people who go through school, they have to learn how to do, and it's like, you know, we all wash our hair at home, so it's not something that's a specialty, you know, but I think the original goal was to find a compromise that wouldn't feel so much a threat, because in a lot of ways, people are already going to the homes of stylists that they knew. It wasn't like we were taking clientele away from people who are already licensed. People are already going to their natural hair stylists, whether they were licensed or not. And I think creating a pathway where people could be a part of the formal economy was one of my hopes, is that, you know, people wouldn't have to feel like they have to hide out in the shadows or worry about getting fined or any of that stuff. And yeah, just bridging the two communities, the natural hair community and I would say like mainstream stylists. But I also want to say shout out to Black women mostly for like the work they've already been doing for years prior to, I mean, most of the people who were already licensed started out, you know, apprenticing at home, like doing this in our community, doing this work community-based, you know, it seems like just hair, but for Black women, hair is so political whether we want it to be or not, you know, how we have to navigate the world with our hair, how we choose to wear our hair is a political issue whether we want it to be or not, and so, yeah, it really is problematic.
Issue, because I feel like this is the hair we're born with, you know, it's just like, that's, for, like I was saying, for Black women, hair is important. It's a way of us for expressing ourselves. We can express ourselves with different styles, you know, we have different textures of curls or on our heads, so it's just really a fun way of us expressing ourselves and how we want to be seen in the world, and I don't think it should be a problem. I feel like, you know, when someone's going into an interview, you know, you've been interviewed, what someone sees in you is because they see qualities, or they don't know if you may have something to bring, and your hair shouldn't be a problem. If it can be styled however you desire to style it, then that shouldn't be a problem. I think that's a way for you to, like, you know, express yourself and just be yourself, and it should be more than just the hair, you know, so. I feel like it's a big problem that needs to stop, and I feel like everyone needs to realize that. They should look past that and really look at the individual and see what they have to offer and their intelligence and their qualifications, and just, you know, just embrace everyone. So, but I'm really proud to know that it's a movement that's really been taking place, and it's moving all over the world. People really starting to like recognize that this is who these people are. You know, give them a chance and let them be, and, you know, just embrace and respect that, you know.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's grassroots. A lot of it is addressing anti-Blackness, which we all learn, and we have to all actively unlearn it. And so, if hair is the tool, then so be it. But there's so many things that we're doing to, you know, I think also kind of reframe the narrative and like refocus the attention, so it's not, you know, so we're focusing on ourselves and not how people are looking at us. And I think that's why I say I'm really proud of Black women, because I think in a lot of ways we've used, especially the internet, as means of being like, I love myself. Like, what are you doing? What are you using? How are you doing your hair? And we kind of, from the ground up, said, you know, no more.
Like empowering each other too.
Yeah, exactly. So the Crown Act that you guys have been talking about is something that's been going on in New York and California where it's an anti-discrimination legislation. So it, you know, under the broad umbrella of protecting people's rights, people wouldn't be able to discriminate based on hair texture and hairstyling. I don't know what that means for, like, you know, if people can color their hair bright colors. I don't know that per se, but I think for sure how people choose to express their hair and how it naturally grows out their hair is something that we're hoping will be covered. And I know that Representative Bynum is working on something like that in Oregon in order to so people don't have to worry about that when they're going on a job interview. Like, they're not going to worry about, hopefully, they're, you know, we can't really address people's internal biases.
Right, how they feel personally.
But we know at least it's on the books that, you know, it's protected, so.
And I've had many clients that have expressed to me, like, how they feel about, you know, wearing their natural hair to work. I mean, I've even had clients who are like, you know, I'm not sure how they're going to look at me, or if they're going to even want me to be there still if I come in, like how, you know, just wear my hair natural. And they often would ask me, you know, what can I do, or can you maybe help me find a style that seems more approachable, wearable, or makes me look better to them. And I feel like that's the problem. I feel like we shouldn't have to readjust ourselves for others to like us. No, you just be yourself, and either someone likes you or not. And I always laugh and say I could not be in a corporate world because I'm just super creative and expressive. Like, you'll have to fire me the first day, because it's like I love hair textures of all kinds. I feel like my hair is just the way how I express myself. And when I come and show up, I feel like, you know, with natural hair too, you can put it in so many different styles. You can flat iron it, you can curl it, you can braid it. There's so many ways you can sculpt it, and it's beautiful. And so if someone can dress really nice and professional, and the hair is styled in their natural essence and the way it is, then that's it. What more? You know what I mean? So I just feel like it's important to really start respecting women and men also, because men too have a problem. Like, sometimes people want them to cut their hair, or it's too long, or it's too big, and it's like, you know, my thing is like, as long as the hair is natural and you can do something with it, sculpt it or style it, and still you dress professionally, dress accordingly, like, that's good enough, you know, to me. But we want the world to then notice that's also good enough. We want them to know that this should be respectful.
Have you had any pushback from law enforcement? Because I know that some of the narrative has been, you know, certain braids and things are sending violent messages to and from people, which of course is just frolics, but I'm just curious if anybody's still being challenged here.
I haven't heard any of that. I just think blackness in general is a threat, and so anything that makes someone look more black. But I haven't heard anything personally, anyone say.
What I've noticed though, however, is just like with schools, like around children being like kicked out for having box braids, you know. For those of you who are not know, box braids are just like, you know, square partings on the head, and it's added hair with extensions, and it's braided down to 3 strands, and that's all over the head. And so kids will get, you know, bullied or discriminated against because they're wearing braids to school, stuff like that. Or I saw something on the internet where this 2 beautiful black girls were ballerinas, and the school that they were going to, they required them to have hair just up in a bun, but they wanted, their hair was braided but up into a bun, cornrowed up into a bun, not slicked back, and they got in trouble and sent out, kicked out from the school. So stuff like that to me. I do know that with ballet, there's strict rules and there's, you know, cultural ways of how the hair's supposed to be slicked, but I feel like people now have to be more open-minded, because maybe not everyone wants to slick their hair back. Or can. There we go, that's another thing too, you know?
It's hard to slick our hair back.
Yeah, in its natural state.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks good.
That's on point.
I bet it took some work.
It took some work. Yeah, you know what I mean? But just like, you know, if it can be like braided up into a bun, that's still beautiful. It's a bun. At the end of the day, we achieved the bun. So it is not slick, but it's pulled back into a bun. So I just feel like that is something. My daughter and I were having a conversation yesterday about that exact thing, like, you know, the slickness, or, you know, what is formula, the cheapest, the neatness is cheap. Because that's pretty much what you're looking for, something slick, so you don't distract, you know, too much from the artistry of the dance moves.
Yeah, Amber, you mentioned something in regards to, well, you mentioned that Representative Bynum is working on legislation. Is it for 2020 or 2021?
It's for 2020, so they're bringing it forth here pretty soon.
Okay.
As I said, she had a draft of something but didn't get it to me. She's off this week, so she graciously talked with me on Monday, but did not have, didn't have time to give me what they have drafted. And I can say that, if you look at my notes, that they have it, it's kind of being co-sponsored with UFCW, which might be United Federation of
Work it out.
I don't know what this is. It's something, I feel like environmental.
It's okay not to know.
I don't know. Okay, I don't, thank you. Thank you for helping me out. Food, yes, United Food and Commercial Workers. That's what it is. Okay, and so they're doing some co-sponsorship. So there's a part of the bill that sort of talks about paying with cash versus credit. I have to see what that is, but the bulk of it is about modeling this after what has happened in California with the Crown Act. So,
Are they
as soon as
using
we
that
have that.
same language?
I don't know. I would think that probably there would be some pretty strong similarities, just
So
given.
I haven't seen it yet, and
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Tisha over at Hair Aspiration. She's another natural hairstylist who also worked with us on the second part of the legislation for shampooing. And this is one thing she's kind of taken on with Representative Bynum. So I'll say they probably have been working on it a little bit more and know a little bit more about it. So it's hard for me to speak on because I haven't.
And there is a draft. She just didn't have it. She didn't send it to me in time for tonight.
Do you know it's final, part of the final legislation, or the bills that are going to be going through legislation?
It will be a bill that's going through legislation,
Okay.
that for sure. She mentioned that on the 13th, they're going to do informational hearing about it in Salem. So folks, and she, if folks are interested, that's why I wanted, if we can get it before then, so you can kind of take a look at what it says. But if you're interested, they'll be doing a hearing, first reading of it there. And that some students from University of Oregon are really, she's giving them sort of like, go and, do this. They're, going to be the voice and sort of face around that. What else did she tell me? She just talked a lot about, and this is thinking about what happens, I think, to young girls when we think about natural hair. And I hadn't had this experience with my daughter at this point in time yet, but she was saying that there were some interesting things that happened with like lice checks and things for camp, and that there were actually, there were visceral reactions when camp counselors, saw her daughter, right, with natural hair and having to check, just appalled at having to do that. And that's a story that she's heard from some other folks, other women that she's connected with in community around what happens at summer camps with young girls who have braids or who are wearing twists or, kind of the natural state of their hair. So that's another sort of testimony as to why this is problematic. So she shared that. I know that just kind of another personal piece, my daughter had braided and put beads in it when she was younger, if you've seen braids with beads, and that I'd get called a couple times from the principal that her hair was loud, that it was making noise in class. And I'm like, is she just saying no? I don't, how loud could it be? She's 5, I don't, so I that, and she's 9 now, but I do remember that being just kind of a personal piece that I've had to deal with my child.
And I've had it from parents who told me their child would get notes their braids are too distracting. I'm like, well, so they're braids. How distracting can braids be? But again, it's like normalizing black hair, normalizing black culture, normalizing blackness in general. This is the work we're doing. It seems like it's just here, but like I said, there's so many more to it.
So, yeah, calls will say other questions.
Oh, I was gonna say, so it seems like, from our commission point of view, what you'd be looking for is sort of a statement in support of this state legislation that's being proposed once we have the language. I mean, I'm just sort of wondering, I love the education piece. It's very valuable to hear your voice. And, we received this, very heartfelt letter and, responded to it, but it sounds like there's a response happening on the state level that would then encompass the city of Portland. So, what would you like us to do as a commission to help move this forward or to stand in support of what you're doing, if assuming that the language of the bill is something we're all in agreement of supporting once we see it?
I think we're here in solidarity of whoever wrote the letter. I don't even know.
It was a young person. What's high school? Wilson High School.
So I think first and foremost, that's really our intention is, I guess the hope is that eventually the city of Portland would come behind it and recognize the importance of it. But I think my heart is this girl who wrote this letter. This is about her, and I think asking her that question would probably be, I think for me, would be a value. But
He's a young man.
Yeah,
no, it's a young man.
It's a young man. Actually, a young white man.
And he was writing on behalf of his,
friends.
of his friends who are black.
Oh, interesting.
He filled the letter with just a lot of historical context.
It's so well done.
I mean, I'm like shocked. I have solidarity with his
The kids are sometimes all right.
Yes, and yes.
Listen to what the kids, actually, kids have a lot to say.
He asked us very directly to push it into local protection. I don't remember if you used that language or.
We talked about city.
The city rights, that's what he was hoping as a protected class status. Because I think he had heard a little bit about the work we did with the Freedom from Religion Foundation. And so he said, maybe can y'all move this into a protected class status there. So does that be something that you support?
I'm interested in knowing, this is not in opposition to him, or I'm interested in knowing who his friends are that message came from, or if it's just an idea that he had. You know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, a lot of this is about centering black people, and in no way is this an intention of dismissing what he has to say, because it is really important. But I'm really interested in where it originally came from. It was just an idea of his. That's a side note.
We created a response. I don't know if you want to speak to that, Jamila. You penned that response. Okay.
And then you mailed it to him.
Yeah, we sent it to his high school because it was the best way to respond to him.
So
With the information that we had, and we never received a response. But I think in the letter we asked, if we invited him to come and to bring the friends that he was advocating for.
That would be really good.
Because I think them speaking is super important, and not just hey. I mean, if it's I want to be in solidarity. I think that's I am so for it. I don't want other people's voices to be spoken over or So that's just a side note. But yes.
And I think we really have.
Advocating for, I think it's great that you advocate for his friend as well.
Yeah.
It's really nice. That being for change.
I think we have the option of, but once we see kind of what that looks like, I think there's, is it something resolution? Is it something that's more of a statement? I think you, not me. I'm an honorary member of HSC. We've got some options. I think that you have the option, right, to decide what that can be.
I wanted to just say that I know there's the pending legislation at the state level, but I hate to wait in some ways on that. But I think it's important to take a stand in our city, and also recognizing where this young man who brought this forward. He's shining a light on something that, so kudos to him for bringing this as a conversation to us. But we need to hear more from folks that are most impacted by it. And it's not inconsequential, right? As I'm hearing you describe, right? we're really looking at combating white supremacist culture and anti-blackness that's pervasive. And sometimes the small changes, not to say this is small, but as you were saying, Amber, right, it's hair, but these changes can have a big impact because they create conversations just like that young man did. So I'd say, and maybe we don't have the time to do this now, but we look at getting the language from the pending legislation for the state that think about, well, what does that mean as a city to take a stand, even if it's in advance of that legislation?
And Representative Bynum is in full support of, whatever, however we move forward. And also Commissioner Fritz, she was excited about this, and so.
I can say really quickly, the attachments that I sent out, the materials, so all of the resolutions that have been set forth, plus the guidance from New Jersey's Human Rights Commission and also New York, the language is being replicated. So it's really already been written for us, so we won't have, I don't think it will be too time consuming for us to put something prior to it going to the state so that it puts a little wind in the sails.
And it's gonna take, it's a legislative session that goes through like May. So it's gonna be a while. It's not something, this is just, and this is the first draft and there could be changes, as you know, if you're familiar with how that process works, so.
I think when it's time, if the commission agrees, if we can submit a statement in support of that, that's,
for sure.
that would, I think that would
additional
be
piece. Yeah,
both
for
on
sure.
the city level and on the state level would be lovely.
And just with state legislation is that, yes, you can submit statements, but you can also endorse it as us as HRC can endorse it and support it once it goes to committee. So as representative of HRC, we can also go to the state level and say, we have passed a resolution here at the city level and that we are in support of the state level legislation. But I think one of the things that we also talked about when discussing the students' letter is the fact that this discrimination against natural hairstyle is for a specific race, to a specific race, right? It's not to white people, it's to black people, and so and protected class is a racial class, right? And so acknowledging that and also lifting that up and put that in conversation as we're talking about natural hairstyle is also something that we discussed during that meeting when we were reading and drafting the cover as well.
That's really lovely. Yeah. That's because it says we're pro-black, like we're not anti-black, which, people don't realize how important it is just to say something so simple like that. Like how for a city and a state to say we're pro-black, that's huge. That's huge. So I appreciate that.
And we've actually met before.
So
it's great to see you here again, but you were also talking, it was actually when you just passed your legislation.
Okay.
2014.
Yes.
Great to see that you're still doing good work.
Thank you.
And I also want to lift up the work that you all are doing really for fair wages as well. So oftentimes the work that we do in our own communities are not viewed as worthy enough and financially worthy enough. So having the legislation that you passed allow for us, allow for you, allow for your community to be able to be compensated at their work.
Yes. And just to highlight that, I would say the last time I checked, 135 people have their natural hair license. Like, think what that means for our state. Think that what that means for those black women who have self-determination through their art, through and all the people that they impact. So it's not just 135 people it's impacted, impacted our state. So
it's like that aha moment, like yes, and the independence that comes with that, to feeling like free, to just not knowing like, oh, I don't feel, like is it going to report me, stuff like that, Just that's great to have that because, like Amber was saying in the beginning, I just felt like I really had to advocate strong because I'm licensed in hair design, and she's licensed in natural hair, but I didn't see any competition with that because for me, I saw what she was trying to do for our community and for black women who wanted to have that independence, who wanted to be able to style hair and to, make others feel great and look good and just support their families. So that's the reason why I really came in strong to advocate. And there's no competition. I think we all can win, There's room for everyone. For hairdressers who license in hair design, we do a whole different scale. Like we have to do we do chemical services, things like that. The national hair is braiding, weaving, locking, stuff like that. So sometimes, like, you know, Amber was saying, some hairdressers actually, or schools, they don't teach them on natural hair a lot. So there's licensed hairdressers out there who don't even know how to do natural hair. So that to me is like a win-win because we can actually switch places. So someone who's in natural hair care and someone who's licensed in hair design, they can actually say, hey, you know, I have someone I can refer you to. Go to Sunny Shows and vice versa. That's beautiful to me. You kind of exchange that, you know? So
We've heard it so much.
Yeah,
you
a
know?
lot. Oh, yeah.
I've never done a black person's hair. I'm licensed. The state gives me the okay to go ahead and do it. So I've
Yeah.
never even touched a black
I
person's
mean,
hair. done.
even at beauty school, I have some of my friends there that were like, oh, wow, you're so cool. How do you know? And I'm sure some of them left still not even having a clue how to do it. But it was just like fascinating to them, you know? Beauty school is where hair design, like for me, I see like texture. You know, I love texture. I'm an artist, so textures is what's fun to work with. And I feel like beauty school is a place where if you learn about hair, you should learn about all textures. That's important. You want, when whoever comes to you, you want to be able to do their texture. You know what I mean? It's important, so.
It doesn't
It's-
happen a lot.
Right.
A lot.
So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Thank you for having us.
Lexi's looking me upside down.
Very good.
Gotta get my hair.
So I want to check with you all, if you would like to make a motion to formally work on this item. And knowing that, much like the other item, you can leave it broad as to, you know, and I think you, so this is the session where you vote.
I think
Next
we
month,
should go to the
you can't
Philippine
vote.
Resolution first, go back to that.
And then do votes on.
Yeah.
things. Okay.
Is there any discussion?
I got a text from Crystal Lee, she wasn't feeling well, but she says, I vote yes. So, that's her vote. That's her, she doesn't have anything to discuss.
But it's okay, we have one, she texted me.
Okay.
So, I guess the first question is, do we want to propose any sort of a resolution or a statement? I think that was part of the question that was posed to us. And procedurally, how we prefer to move forward and,
Well, so if we propose a resolution, which I'm personally in favor of, then it is, then becomes sort of the domain of council, right? City council.
I mean, not completely, the action
It requires action.
of the
Right.
resolution is an action that is an action of the council. But throughout the entire, you know, the language would be still the language that has been drafted by Dr. Crane and community members. It will just get tweaked a little bit where you'll have to put in council and certain parts and the whereas and some of the formatting of the language, but the substantive pieces can remain intact as they are in the draft.
and then it will move forward to a vote at council.
Yes,
To also make it a city resolution.
correct.
Which has more power.
I guess. And I guess it doesn't mean that we have to do either or, we can do both. We can have a statement as well as vote towards a resolution as well. Correct?
Or
not.
Or not.
Or not.
I'm wondering if, I'm in support of the resolution, I'm wondering if a statement could, I mean, we have the pen to basically say what we want to say, and I wonder if that gives the city council some kind of guidance around what they can include in the resolution. Or we could push something.
Can you speak louder, please? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I was just saying I'm in support of the resolution, and I'm wondering if we sequence putting out a statement, if that puts more pressure on council to also follow suit and put out a resolution.
Well, I think that have you all checked out, this resolution draft that was sent? I mean, think there's already a lot of legs there, right, so.
I mean, I'm just gonna bring forth what my concerns were a few months ago, which is, sort of that, back to that, what our role is within city policy and making sure that we stick to sort of what we're able to do. And I also question, we've had other things come forth that we've decided not to issue statements on. And I guess I'd like to be able to say to those communities, we didn't issue a statement for this reason, yet the same reasons are true to this issue in many ways. So I just want us to think about how we are treating everyone equitably. I don't know if that was well articulated, but somebody help me out.
And the body is different at that time with the resolutions, correct? So we're
Correct.
we're made up of a different body of folks that are sitting at this table, correct, right now?
Well, I was there, but.
And I was
But-
there as well. Yes, there has been a change.
Maybe 80% of us were not
Yeah.
there at those past resolutions, right? It's changed.
Yeah.
I think this is a good time for me to chime in. So as some of you may know, my term as a Human Rights Commissioner is up, so I'll be abstaining from this. And I will say that it's bittersweet and kind of getting some FOMO because I would love to be part of this work. But yeah, I won't be able to see it through.
Well, sad.
And I don't know if I can ask, are you abstaining because you won't be able to follow through with the work, whether it's going to move forward or not? Okay.
I mean, is this your last meeting?
Yeah.
But that doesn't invalidate your vote,
No.
right? So you could theoretically still participate in the voting process to move forward with a resolution or a statement, right?
Yes, but I want to be able to follow through with whatever that was, right? I want to be part of the work in the future, and just for that.
Got it. Okay.
It's not that
Yeah, it's your call.
I wanted to just give an example, because I'm looking here in my notes that Claire gave me of the language. She was giving me an example in the resolution of what one of the whereases could look like. If you're familiar with whereas, she was saying you could write something like, whereas the HRC joins the San Francisco HRC in taking a stance on blah, blah, blah issue. So I just want to be clear that when you do the resolution, even though it's an act of council, that your voice is still all in it, that your, and community and all the groups that helped pen the draft, all those folks can be named and uplifted, and you can talk about the stakeholder engagement that you've had at your meetings. So all of this can still be uplifted in the resolution.
I'm in support of a resolution, and I want to make sure that as a commission, we don't get into the idea that we need to reinvent what experts have already done. I think there's a lot of power in lending our voice to a community that is already, they bled, they cried with their family back in the Philippines. So I don't want us to feel like, okay, we need to completely redesign stuff and give our support to the community voice that we
That's
created.
exactly right. So back to what Sonia Marie, you asked, was you want to be, have a clear frame for how is this different than perhaps previous international items that have been brought to HRC where there was demonstrated local impact.
And if the response is the body of the commission has changed, and with that, there's a difference in approach and interpretation, that's fine. I just want to make sure that, we've had people here who have also shared their deepest pains and their community's wounds, and we've said to them, we're sorry, but this is an international issue and a federal thing, and we as a city are not putting dollars in it, and we don't know how we as a body, a city body, we don't feel comfortable making a statement or asking the city council to make a resolution. So I just want to make sure that should that community come back to us, maybe our answer would be different, but maybe it would be the same. And I wanna, that's sort of my, like I said, and if the answer is the body has changed and there are new commissioners and those opinions, and the approach is different, totally cool. I just wanna make sure that we.
And I think we inherited, I can speak for myself, like, we do not engage in X, Y, and Z, and there was just sort of this period on the end of it, and I think that when it comes to human rights issues, it's way too nuanced to have this really sharp end, and so, yeah, maybe the HRC is different, but I think it's also, a lot of us are maturing, and understanding ways in which to challenge those oppressive policies, or policies that just don't make a whole lot of sense, or that expect everything to fit very neatly. Because I think Josue, like you said, we were talking about, well, where does Portland end and where does Multnomah County begin? That's always felt super icky to all of us. And so, yeah, I don't know what I said, but I'm in support of the resolution.
Yeah, we need to vote. The vote doesn't have to be unanimous, it's just a majority. So if your conscience says, I can't because if somebody comes and asks me why, I can't give a good answer, then you follow your conscience. But we don't all have to vote exactly the same way after deliberation.
I just want us to be conscious that we have said no to other communities that have come to us with similar issues, and so I want to honor that that's happened, and sort of know that there could be, that community could come back to us and say, well, why the hypocrisy?
Good for them if they do.
Yeah, I think we exist always in a context and a moment in time, and as changing, evolving members, not just members change, but we evolve in our own thinking. I think if a group would want to bring and merge and help us understand an issue, that maybe that should happen. And I think there's no question we all are concerned, thinking about how to consider this deeply.
And I think one of the things I want to add is that, we're human rights commissioners. Are we human rights commissioners for only Portlanders, or are we human rights commissioners? So, and so that's also something to also think about and bring forth, and how the interconnection of our community members, those of us who live here in Portland, the links between our communities and places of home, and it's been a hard couple of days. I'm getting a little emotional. And that I feel that if other communities want to come back, I think we are here to listen, and if changes within this body will make a difference in some of the issues that they're putting forward, then I'm hoping that we'll make also an informed decision at that point as well. But we should not base our decision today based on decisions that we made in the past or mistakes that we made in the past.
So what are our next steps?
I think the first step is deciding if there's a statement or a resolution, and then moving forward, or both, or what process we're choosing to move forward with, and then sounded like sort of a general, we're moving forward and giving Dr. Crane permission to adapt the language based on the choice we make, based on some criteria that Tatiana, or outline that Tatiana can provide, the language, the
So we're voting in support of one or the other, and ultimately, like Tatiana pointed out at the beginning, to allow Crystal Lee and anybody else on the commission that wants to help her move forward with the draft work. We support that work.
And I'd like to actually propose that we vote on two separate rather than one or the other.
Okay, that's a good idea. We'll do it.
So we can clarify what the statement would be. So the vote for a resolution would be in support of the resolution that we have in front of us and to act on this as a draft, then the statement, what would the statement be?
Is that a press release?
It'd be like the other statements that you've made, like on the
Responding
murder of
to-
the transgender
Yeah,
women,
okay.
things like that.
So it's just
Those
going to-
statements that can go public.
Okay.
It's an open letter statement from the commission, and it can, you know, we can work with Jeff, in looking at what media outlets that could try to get out to, social media, and as Claire mentioned, their office is happy to support putting that out on social media as well. I suppose the third option could be that you just do the resolution and we ask Jeff to do his magic on getting information out about the fact that we passed, you put forth this resolution and that it was passed. And that you can get press on the resolution versus doing both. That could be another idea.
I have another question. If we pass the resolution, then if it goes to council and council doesn't pass it, in a sense, then can we make a statement? Or, we'll have some control up to that point, and then how do we continue the work forward after that if it doesn't pass council?
I guess in that option, I would say that sounds a little bit more stronger argument for doing both. Because the statement, that way you have the timing.
And we have it ready to go.
The timing is the same for
'Cause we can't
both and
control-
one lives on.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I just have one more question. Am I to understand, sorry, let me clarify this, that Commissioner Fritz's office would, because we'll need office support for a resolution? So am I assuming we have that support, or would we need to?
We'd have to bring this.
We would have to bring it
this
to
her.
that.
After your vote, I'll meet again with Claire.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify, like, even if we say we want a resolution, if no office is in support of that resolution, no commissioner or
Is willing to put
council
it forward.
member is willing to put it forward, then it just dies.
Yeah, but right now it hasn't gone to any office.
Correct.
So-
Right.
And
No,
so-
I
So
just.
that was my, is Drew here?
Hi.
Hi, Drew. Sorry, I forgot to put a face to the name, my apologies. Have you gone to any other council offices?
So just in terms of kind of the history of this, there was multiple people who testified in front of city council itself in public comment in May 2018. And what was said at that point is positive. We also showed a letter from Senator Merkley, who's publicly said is against the killings in the Philippines. And so what was said at the time, and especially the mayor himself, said, have you talked to the Human Rights Commission about this? And so at that point, we began connecting with Dr. Curry. Yeah.
Okay.
That's all right. So, yeah, I mean, as we know, Commissioner Udaly is a champion of also human rights and the UNDHR specifically.
And Commissioner Brooks.
Yes, so anyway, you can take it to different offices, as Commissioner Fritz has told us before, if there's something, she, for capacity reasons or whatever other reasons, can't endorse, you can shop it around to other
We
offices
can
and
call it the
that's
city
customary.
hall crawl, right?
I just wanted to
It's a
clarify the
customary
process.
part of the process.
Okay.
I have one more clarifying, maybe it's not the last clarifying question. Have we received any documentation or testimony in opposition to this resolution from the public or?
No, I've shared everything that I have with you.
Thank you.
I mean, I spoke with Angelica several months ago, because we needed to have, there's Angelica right there, just in case. Hi. What would that look like? Is every person who identifies, with the Philippines living in Portland, are they on board, and what sort of pushback might we get? Are we misspeaking? And we talked a little bit about, that.
Yeah, we talked, it's a few months ago, and I think that we've been able to really survey our communities, especially after our conversation on kind of the pulse of what's happening. And I think since the last time we've talked, the crimes against the people in the Philippines have really upped. I think So even that has changed in terms of our ability to talk to more people about currently what's happening, because what you see on the news is not actually the truth of what's actually happening on the ground. So, for example, with Veronica going to the Philippines and all the other exposure trips that we do take, it's kind of our duty to actually be on the ground in the Philippines to see the current conditions, not what we actually hear from mainstream media. So a lot of what we've tried to do is actually exemplify what's happening in the Philippines and let community members know and have them create their impact. And so through a lot of our organizations, we've been able to unite that a lot of Filipinos are actually not in favor of the way that Duterte is actually continuing to lead in the Philippines.
Thank you. Thank you.
How would we word this resolution?
We're not doing that, it's a motion to move forward with the resolution and allow Crystal Lee and anybody else to work with community and the statement.
How do you want to word it?
The motion to, hold on, I wrote it down, Tatiana said it and I left it blank. A motion that we vote to put forth a resolution resolution, and this vote is gonna be broad enough to allow, Dr. Crystal Lee Crane, anybody else on the HRC who wants to support that work, and members of the community to move forward with fine tuning the draft resolution. All those in favor?
You must write fast. Yeah, so it was, maybe leaving the broad part out was just my commentary, so you can do like vote to put forth the resolution.
Y'all got it
The
though,
draft
right?
resolution and
Yeah.
continue to give Dr. Crane and,
Support and encouragement.
yeah, the authority, I don't know if you use the word authority, to finalize the language of the resolution into a final draft.
So then, as the time, all those in favor?
You gotta second it.
Oh, okay.
So I second it.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed?
Someone
One,
like
someone
opposed?
like- Anybody want to abstain?
Aye, sorry.
So one, and then so are we doing no proxy votes?
Right, you can do proxy vote.
Okay, so one, two, so it passes? The vote passes.
So,
Second vote.
So I'd like to put forth that we release a statement in support of the what am I saying? Help me out here.
That we
In support of the
advocacy
Philippine community denouncing human rights violations of Duterte's regime. Marie Lake comes supports the statement.
Jamila Dozier, second that. Oh, so this is, I'm sorry, I got confused.
Two different, because we were gonna do.
You're opposed
I'm
to the
opposed to resolution.
but you're putting forth the statement.
Yep.
So all those in favor of the statement? Say aye, sorry. Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Opposed way? It passes. So we have a statement.
Do you want Dr. Crane to just, because I imagine the language would be very similar, you can just drop some language,
Yeah, I think
so
we should.
is that?
I think that's a brilliant idea.
And I think if it's possible for this statement to go out, once we know if there's a time certain and an office to support, if the statement can include information for public to join and support if they desire, that would be really great.
Yeah.
Okay.
It will still have to go to a vote at city council.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
But I
I
think,
think she meant, I'm sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, I mean, certainly we could, be part of the roundtable of folks that are like, okay, this is where support, show up for that and speak it and testify, right? So then now we have to vote on the next steps for discrimination
Next
based
steps.
on
are we voting?
We need to make a motion for that.
Do we have 2 votes for that as well? Because there's that state level as well as the city level.
Oh,
With a
statement in
possible
support of
statement
what-
as well, so maybe 3.
Yes.
Yeah. I think ours is a statement.
You mean resolution versus the statement that goes to city council?
Yeah.
Do I have a question?
I mean, would we be voting on, including natural hair in, Title 23 in city code?
That's what that's what I noticed in some of the language, is that they took race and expanded the definition, much like we did with religion.
Yeah.
And that was a resolution.
So,
That was a
no,
change.
that's what we got back from the attorney, is that, race is not defined in Title 23 to include that, right? And so, there's some, in the case in the Southern District of Alabama, they held that it didn't cover that protection because it wasn't an immutable trait of a black person. So that's not necessarily the finding that would happen.
It's Alabama.
Right, so that hasn't been, been no ruling in Oregon, but
I was gonna say,
it could go
another
that way.
Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, I know, I lived in Alabama once, I own that.
So, I don't know, I mean.
So the question is, are we making a statement, or are we actually looking at changing city code?
Right.
And so one thing could be, we change city code to add that definition in Title 23. So maybe, maybe the vote, since this is our voting, is to move forward with exploring city code and making a statement to City Hall, or a statement in support of the statewide efforts and all that. So it could be a statement that happens now, even as we're continuing to explore the city code.
So maybe you want 2 votes there, like you did with the other item? That would be
Yes, and maybe before we advance, just consideration of, since we're looking at adding houselessness as a protected
Yeah,
class,
yeah.
we can look at package maybe, and also add hairstyles or whatever specific language. Yeah, if we can add a package.
Well, they both kind of relate to criminalization of things, right? So there would be maybe.
And I like the idea of statements, right, so we can clarify our intent of what we're doing, because I think that's when criticism or question of what we do as a body, so I think the more we can kind of communicate, what it is that everyone is, just to kind of get more engagement.
I think I would love to have us create an intent to move forward on this, and also continue to gather information. Because I definitely feel uncomfortable standing in support of a state law that we have not read the wording on. So I think there's one thing to state intent or solidarity with a movement or an ask of a community versus tying ourselves to specific legislation at this time.
Yeah, that statement would come after we reviewed that, so I think we're first talking about just a statement of, exploring this for the city of Portland and looking at how Portland can take a stand on this issue. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that makes sense. A statement of intent or
Statement about a statement.
Does that
for a
make
statement.
sense? What you were saying, Rhodes, of like kind of stating our intent of what we're pursuing?
Yeah, and pointing to, New York and California.
Mhm.
So we had the opportunity to look at those, at that language, and it's something that I would get behind as a body.
Yeah.
So I move that we move forward to create a statement exploring how the city of Portland can be supportive of all hairstyles. And then, so that would be, I think, the first thing that we would do.
I don't know if it was all hairstyles, and then we specifically.
Well, I was referring to black natural.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's in here,
Anti-discrimination.
discrimination based on hairstyle is what the wording was used, and I don't know if that's the best wording to
Yeah, I think we
continue
changed it to
use.
natural hair, or we started just sort of informally using that language, I don't know.
Well, I think we should, I think the language will come in the statement. I think we should look at what some of the other cities have done, so whatever the motion is just to, basically create that.
I second. Stuart's great.
You didn't finish the wording of the motion. Because this is public record, and then it's on to Grace to type it up, and if we don't have the actual language, then we can't put words in your mouth, and then we can't vote on it again until March. Sorry, basically, but I mean the words.
So move to add to the commission's workload the pursuit of.
So far, you have moved to create a statement. I think that part sounds good. In support of, what do you want to, or in this?
The Crown Act ensures protections against discrimination based on hairstyles.
Yeah.
That's the Crown Act. That's the language we
In
have.
support of the Crown Act? Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is it being called the Crown Act?
They weren't sure.
They weren't sure on that.
She used that language,
Yeah.
so I feel
Why
like.
would you just
And
say-
similar,
And
I'm- I
similar.
mean,
and similar
represent my-
legislation.
Natural hair
Yeah.
protection legislation and policy, you know.
Can you read that back to us?
My computer's getting to that, yes. Move to create a statement in support of the Crown Act and similar legislation, related to discrimination based on hairstyle.
And it sounds like the second piece is exploring whether we want to push for a change in city code. Is that what I heard? To
And that you're
expand the
taking-
definition of
Protected
protected
class
class
under Title 23.
And you're taking time to wait on that, because you're waiting to see the draft?
No, I think we can still work towards that within our work session next month.
Okay, so this is another one.
Yeah, I like the way that Rose framed it as far as continuing the work on houselessness and seeing if there's a way to package it, because I really want us to be mindful of our commitment to continue that work, and so if there's a way that we can
We're exploring protected
have
classes.
us, explore the protected classes as a whole, and that would be, I think, preferable for me.
I agree. Wholeheartedly.
We were asked that by Commissioner Fritz's office last time when we were looking at freedom. So you have this motion on the table about the statement in support of the Crown Act and similar legislation related to discrimination based on hairstyles, and now somebody needs to second it. Any extensions?
I second.
So you want to do it for the last time?
So we're moving for a vote?
Yeah.
So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, or any opposed? Aye, just want to get us abstain. It's close, no?
So it passes.
So it passes.
All right, next one.
And the next one is the.
So that was the last one was a statement.
Yeah, and the next one's the roads, whatever you said, that was so nice.
putting
Go
the
ahead,
motion
just
forward?
motion.
Did you write it down?
No, but,
Are you putting the motion forward?
yeah, I'm still trying to, I guess, externally
Okay,
put it
process.
together, the process. So it's a motion to move forward with adding protections against discrimination based on hairstyles and houselessness protections in
Title 23.
Yeah.
So is the intention to package them together? Would they would be reviewed separately? Or would we be asking?
I think as we do the research for houselessness and we're getting those, I think we're ready at our next month's meeting to talk about that. We do research at the same time on what this would look like for hairstyles and the code, and put it forward to Commissioner Evans's office at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so they're considering both changes within the code.
Yeah.
Knowing that one may be taken and one may not, or they both, you know.
Right, because if they're gonna, if they're gonna do the work on their end, attorneys.
Right, might as well do both at once. That makes sense.
It says, to move forward with adding protections against discrimination based on hairstyle and houseless protections in Title 23.
I second the motion. Ms. Rodriguez.
So somebody else, that was just wordsmithing?
Oh, that,
Rhodes was
Sorry,
good.
vote. Rhodes, you're good.
no, I'll second.
Now you're.
I move forward with the motion to package houselessness and hairstyle protections
Yeah.
together.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Josue's second.
Yep.
Is that your last official action?
Yeah.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Is anyone abstaining? Josue is abstaining. Motion passes.
I just had a thought, I think we should approach Artiste's office on this bundle.
Yeah.
Just from my
Yeah.
sense of their office, I think that would
I
be.
think that makes sense, given her
Passions. We extended an invitation to Artiste's office to attend today, but it was too much.
I have a small announcement.
If because Josue seconded it, does that count as voting?
No.
Just
So second is not voting?
I,
Second
yeah,
typically means a
I
yes,
don't,
right?
yeah, I don't think that you can abstain and have a second.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I
All
thought
right.
it meant
All
that
right.
you're agreeing to present it for a vote, not that you're voting on it.
Okay, then I withdraw my.
Honestly, I have to look that up.
Let me pull up my
I know,
Robert's
yeah.
rules.
You're doing too much.
Just backspace.
I haven't had that situation come up
You
before,
can't be
so
in and
I
out,
think it's
right?
better second on second.
Okay, so we should revote then,
I
Well,
think it's
just-
fine.
You just need somebody else to.
to second,
Second.
yeah.
Yeah.
I second, second.
Yeah.
This way in and out. No, one foot in and one foot out.
All those in favor? All in favor?
Leave it
Aye.
alone.
All those opposed?
I'm bored.
All those abstaining?
I'm messing with you.
Josue is abstaining again. The motion passes.
So, we've got announcements. Oh, no, I don't know. I'm just trying to keep us to the schedule.
City government.
Okay, sounds like announcements, announcements and closing.
So review and discussion of action items and announcements and closing. So, I think in review, I will contact Crystal Lee, because we've been in pretty constant contact recently. So I can contact her if you would like, and just give her the synopsis of what happened tonight. And that way I can communicate with her what I heard from Claire as far as the formatting, and I will get out to you the Iran resolution so that you can see what Claire has said is a good example for formatting for those issues that are on the international level. So those are action items for me. Thank you so much. And then any additional action items that you all feel responsible for?
I want us to talk about our community meetings or our offsite meetings. And I don't know, Tatiana, if you were there, but Markeisha was bringing up that you are moving maybe if it needed to an offsite location.
It could, but it's also really hectic.
Yeah.
For us.
Right, so organizing, but maybe just having a conversation in February about when to have that again will be good for this conversation. I also wanna make us aware also about the legislation, short session. If we want to support the legislation, we will have to work in between, because the short session starts, I think first week of February, first or second week of February, and then ends first or second week of March, so it's very short. And it will be for our, before we can vote.
Yeah, it is, it's 5 weeks.
So, something I forgot when we were voting, but, I don't know how we can make that work, and to be in support of, that bill.
Yeah.
Well, our next meeting is on
It's a non-voting.
So we can plan stuff out.
Yeah, and then vote in March.
Yeah, but by March, the session's gonna be done. That's the problem. For what? Sorry.
To be in support of the legislation or not, if we want to move with an action during legislation, we're just not gonna be during.
For the first reading, what's happening on January 15th?
Just during legislation alone, because legislation will happen before our March meeting, which is when we will vote on either endorsing the bill.
Which bill are you talking about?
The draft.
The Crown bill that
Right.
Representative Bynum is putting forward.
It's on the short session, said it was the first reading.
Right, but what I'm saying, short session is between February and March, beginning of February and beginning of March. So it would not be during the time that we will be voting. So it would limit us as far as what.
I think the
Right.
question is, can we
To
vote,
endorse, if we want to.
can we vote at our work meeting?
Do we endorse legislation? I seem to remember there's some question about that. So we
endorse
sort
it,
of,
but in your statement, you can be in support of it,
Support.
but you don't need to do like a formal
So there's no
endorsement, you
endorsement.
can't do an
Okay.
endorsement of ballot measures or.
right. So we can state our own intentions and.
You can name it and call it out and all of that, yeah.
I have one announcement. There's it's not really an announcement, it's just sort of something to put, I guess I'm asking Tatiana. But Rose and I both were asked again about disability accommodations and reporting sessions, and I know that you're here, Joe. But there have been some members of the Houseless community who have asked us directly to ask OEHR to.
Yeah, so so that is a process that has to go through a formal process, and we have been in email communication with those folks that have requested that directly from us. We have provided them the forms, the information, and the process for how to go about that. And we've also touched base in person about, is there anything that we can do to help facilitate that process for them that doesn't have to happen over email, but can happen in person, and that has not been pursued.
Would it be possible for you all to reach out to them again, ask them again, in case they had other things come up and it?
It's been pretty
Yes.
recent that we've been asked multiple times, and there's just a process that has to happen for that, because it's a formal ADA request, and the ADA requests, I'm sorry, I'm just explaining what has been explained to me, but you can't just say, on behalf of all folks who are experiencing this situation, can you please do this thing? That's what I was told by the Civil Rights Program. So, where do you put the videos, Joe? Where are you publishing?
YouTube and Portland Indie Media, as well as my own website.
And then we have it recorded right now, is that just for note?
Yes.
Oh.
So, I mean, but I think it's something that, could be explored. It could be something you could take to civic life, who is in charge of all boards and commissions and taking it at that level to say, you know, what kind of efforts can we make? Like, is it a Zoom conference that's available, you know, I don't know, to explore different options. But once you say ADA request, there's this formal process, and we've already attempted multiple times to engage to be able to help facilitate that formal, direct process for an ADA request. But anything that's broader, which I think is a perfectly
Such as community requests or accessibility.
request, yeah, for how you want to maybe conduct your meetings, that's a conversation that you can definitely have.
I mean, I would certainly love if the recordings were available on the website of our meetings. And I know when I had to miss a meeting, and wasn't able to be on the phone, I was able to get, I think it was an MP3 or some sort of digital version that was emailed to me so that I could listen to it in addition to the minutes. Because I'm a commissioner, but I don't know that that's, you know.
Yeah.
It would be awesome if there was a way to just streamline it, so you could just click a button and listen to every public commission meeting on a citywide level, not just
I mean,
us.
and, yeah, I mean, that would be like the ideal, equitable, inclusive, move. So we can put that on the agenda to talk about that in the next month, if there's a work session?
I just wanted to share this. The National Law Center on houselessness and homelessness and poverty just came out with a report in December, and it's much longer than the executive summary, but I wanted to print some out for folks because I find it handy to have that, and we could bring this to the next session. In addition, this is from a detail, like the report is about 120 pages long, but they did a review of the ways in which homelessness is criminalized in cities across the U.S. So there's the list of where Portland fits on this sheet that also is coming around, the things that are criminalized in Portland. So I wanted my commissioners to see this, to think about when we look at changing the code, the implications that that might have. And if we do this in a work session next time, weighing the importance of dealing with laws that criminalize houselessness directly and looking at those, because also there's been an increase in this, and Eugene Kaiser just passing legislation, and I think in Washington as well, there's looking at anti-camping legislation and things like that. So anyway, that's for, you can go onto the, just Google this and you can get the full report electronically.
Thank you.
Sorry, one more thing. Sorry, I'm like handing out things. This is, we did the, when we did the Emily Gottfried Awards, we created kind of a small list of criteria that we were using for the awards, and then also had some questions that we created as guides when we were checking references, and I thought I would share these with folks. I should send them out electronically, but I had copies. But I was hoping to give the last time, but I couldn't.
Yeah. Since it's your last meeting, is there anything that you wanted to share with us, either work that you, gaps in work that you might have been doing? I know you were doing a ton with sort of different committees and things and representing us. Is there anything that, wise words or
Any party
anything, one, any gaps that you see that we need to fill with you leaving? And two, anything that you want to?
I think, well, a lot has changed since 2016. Yeah, and we did the work with the Portland Police Bureau. That project is done for now. I know that they've reached out to us, with other opportunities for collaboration. It's not the easiest of work at times, but I think it's very valuable. So it's important that we continue that and continue to strengthen and foster our relationships with other commissions and city or community programs. Yeah, it's kind of bittersweet because yeah, there's a lot of good work at hand in the future, so I'm excited for that. So yeah, just keep doing, focus on work. It can definitely be overwhelming at times. Don't give up.
I don't have like a plaque for you, like our normal statue.
Statue.
We could have cupcakes if we did.
Thank you for everything. I joined with you, and so I'm
Yeah.
sad to see you leave.
We have, at our next meeting, could we talk and add to our agenda, talk about nominations, board nominations, is it just, if we have room for that, but if you have any ideas of people that you would want to encourage, just hope you do that, pass that along, or anyone who might be interested, just invite them to come. I love seeing your student at the Awards Awards, that was so sweet. She was nice.
And speaking of the awards, thank you for the work from the staff for that. It was a lovely event.
I had a couple of things, I guess it's 7 already, but in tracking items, I think now with the opportunities that we have with the 2 policy items that we're looking at, this kind of is maybe not as important, but one of the things that we've been tracking, that I've been tracking that we've dropped the ball on was the communications in front of council. So we're gonna have the opportunity to do that with these 2, so that's good. But in addition to the offsite meetings, we talked about this in November when there was only 3 of us, 3 members present, that I sent the information for signing up again, and you all had decided on your pairs, and nobody did anything with that information. So I just wanted to let you know that we did all the work to get that process to you, and you were very adamant about doing so, but nothing happened. So there's.
You're not doing it after the first one?
No. So just letting you know, you have in your attachments, you have, the pairs that you created, the schedule.
When was that sent?
If you look at, I don't know, you'll have to just do a search. If you do a search for Carla or council clerk, you'll find the email. It was ages ago now. It was only the one. It was, before Christmas.
Oh, right, so we decided who was going, we wrote out
All of that had been decided, everything had been decided, it's just that process doesn't need to go to me, I just need to be copied on the communications. That process is that you contact the council clerk directly when you sign up for the communications. So that's what you had decided you want to do on a regular basis, so just kind of a reminder that that's available to you still. But again, these other 2, we want to plug into it, so we can get started. And I can always help you double check that since I keep a log.
I'm not gonna put anything in it, I'm just gonna set it up and we can have a conversation about, all right, what do we wanna highlight and that, right? And it should be fairly, not terrific, time and motion during bullet points and stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, y'all.